Ibn Sina's philosophy, the Kitab al-Najat, Book of Salvation, is the magnum opus of Ibn Sina, a towering figure in Islamic philosophy. It is not merely a philosophical text, but also a guide to human salvation, both intellectual and spiritual. The central aim of this book is to help the human soul transcend the limitations of the physical world, and through the purification of intellect and spirit, reach the ultimate truth, God. Ibn Sina employs reason, logic, and metaphysics to explain the nature of existence, the soul, and the path to salvation. Ibn Sina's philosophy is rooted in the belief that the mind and soul have the potential to grasp universal truths, but this requires a disciplined journey of self-reflection, knowledge, and virtue. In this journey, Ibn Sina's work serves not just as a guide to understanding the war universe, but a map to guide the soul toward eternal salvation. The nature of existence. The essence of being, at the heart of Ibn Sina's metaphysical system, is the idea that all of existence can be understood through being, wujud. Everything that exists is being, and the study of being is what we call metaphysics. Ibn Sina begins by explaining that all beings fall into two categories. The necessary being, wajib al-wujud. The necessary being is God, whose existence is self-evident and uncaused. God's essence is existence itself. The necessary being cannot not exist. Contingent beings, mumkin al-wujud. These are beings whose existence is dependent on something else. They are not essential, and could have been otherwise. All material and immaterial beings in the world are contingent. The idea of necessary existence is critical because it explains why God must exist. The universe, full of contingent beings, cannot have come from nothing. Therefore, a necessary being, independent of everything else, must exist as the first cause, and this necessary being is God. The concept of God, the one and the necessary existent. In Ibn Sina's philosophy, God is the one, the source of all existence, eternal and self-sufficient. God's existence is necessary. It is not contingent upon anything else. God does not need anything to exist, for his existence is absolute and inherent in his essence. Ibn Sina uses logical reasoning to prove God's existence, relying on the premise that the universe cannot be infinite in causality. At some point, there must be a first cause, a cause that is not contingent, and this first cause is God. In this framework, God is not only the creator, but also the sustainer of all things. Everything in the universe exists because of God's will, and all things depend on God for their continued existence. But God's essence is simple and unchangeable. Unlike the material world, which is filled with multiplicity and change, God remains perfectly one and eternal. God's knowledge and will are perfect. There is nothing in the universe that exists outside of his knowledge. He is the cause of everything, but remains transcendent, untouched by the created world. The creation of the universe. Emanation. According to Ibn Sina, God does not create the universe in the same way a craftsman builds an object. Instead, God's creative act is understood through emanation. Fayd. Emanation is the process by which the necessary being causes other beings to exist without being changed. This process flows in a hierarchical order. God emanates the first intellect, Aql al-Awwal. The first intellect creates the first heaven and the second intellect. The second intellect gives rise to the second heaven, and so on. This emanation continues until the material world is formed. The universe, thus, is a series of emanations, from the one, each step becoming less perfect, less abstract, and more material. God's essence remains unchanged. Just as the sun's light does not alter the sun itself, the universe is the radiation of God's perfection, spreading throughout all of existence. The soul, the immaterial essence and its journey. For Ibn Sina, the soul is a crucial aspect of human existence. The soul is immaterial, eternal, and capable of understanding universal truths beyond the physical world. The soul is not inherently bound to the body, but joins with it for a period of time. At death, the soul continues to exist. It does not cease with the body. Ibn Sina discusses the soul's journey through various stages of development. The potential soul. This is the soul in its raw, undeveloped form, full of potential but without any actual knowledge or virtue. The actualized soul. As the soul grows in knowledge, it becomes actualized. That is, it has learned and achieved some level of wisdom. The perfect soul. This is the highest stage, where the soul becomes aligned with divine intellect and virtue. The soul reaches its perfection by gaining knowledge and purifying itself of passions and desires. Ultimately, the soul's goal is to reach union with the active intellect, the highest level of intellect in the hierarchy of being. This union represents the ultimate salvation, Najat, of the soul, where it achieves eternal bliss in communion with God. Proofs of God and the order of the universe. Ibn Sina does not stop at reflection. He offers rational proofs for the existence of God. The key proofs are the proof of the necessary existent, Burhan Wujub al-Wujud. If we observe all beings, each thing could possibly not exist. Therefore, it requires a cause to exist, but that cause itself might also be contingent. An infinite regress of causes is impossible. Thus, there must be a being that is not contingent, that necessarily exists. This being is God. For Ibn Sina, God's existence is not a matter of blind faith. It is a logical necessity. A clear mind must inevitably arrive at this conclusion. The order of the universe as proof, the meticulous order of the cosmos, the precise motion of the stars, the regularity of seasons, the intricate structures of living beings, all point towards deliberate design. The universe cannot be the product of randomness. Behind the harmony lies wisdom, will, and purpose. Without purpose, order would be impossible. Thus, God is not merely the creator, but also the sustainer and organizer of existence. God and creation. The concept of emanation. How does God relate to the world? Is it like a carpenter building a table? No. According to Ibn Sina, God creates through emanation, Fayd. What is emanation? Emanation is the outflow of existence from the necessary being. From God emanates the first intellect, Aql al-Awwal. From the first intellect, the highest heaven is created. Then comes the second intellect, the second heaven, and so on. The process continues until the material world is formed. God remains unchanged and utterly simple. The act of emanation does not alter him. It is a natural consequence of his pure being. Just as the sun radiates light without change, God's perfection overflows in existence. Through this model, Ibn Sina reconciles divine simplicity with the multiplicity of creation. Part 8. The intellect and the hierarchy of being in Ibn Sina's cosmology. The intellect, AQL, plays a central role. The order of emanation is structured through successive intellects. First intellect gives rise to the first heaven and the second intellect. Second intellect leads to the second heaven and the third. Intellect, and so forth, until the 10th intellect, the active intellect, al-Aql, al-Fa'al, which directly engages with the material world. The active intellect imparts forms to physical beings, provides humans with universal knowledge, acts as the intermediary between divine truth and human understanding. Human intellect itself progresses through stages. Material intellect, al-Aql al-Hayulani, pure potentiality. Potential intellect, beginning to actualize knowledge. Actual. Intellect, ala kulbi al-fil. Realized understanding. Acquired intellect, ala kul al-mustafad. Pure intellect, detached from materiality. The aim of human life is to perfect the intellect, to ascend towards the divine realities, the immortality of the soul. Is the human soul eternal? Ibn Sina answers, yes, the soul is immaterial, does not depend on the body for its existence, survives bodily death. Proof lies in our ability to comprehend universals, concepts beyond material forms. Thus, our intellect must itself be immaterial. The death of the body is not the death of the soul. However, not all souls achieve happiness. Those that purify themselves through knowledge and virtue attain eternal joy. Those that remain trapped in ignorance and vice persist in a state of deprivation. The soul's destiny depends entirely on the life it leads. Ethics and the path to happiness. After establishing metaphysics and psychology, Ibn Sina turns to ethics. The ultimate goal of human existence is true happiness, al-sa'ada. This is not physical pleasure or material wealth. True happiness is the perfection of the intellect, the purification of the soul, union with the divine truth. To attain it, one must devote oneself to the pursuit of knowledge, master one's desires, live according to virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and moderation. Reflect deeply on the self and the universe. Ethics, for Ibn Sina, is not mere external behavior, but an inner transformation. It is the elevation of the soul toward its true nature. The meaning of salvation, Najat. What is Najat? Salvation? For Ibn Sina, salvation is the soul's liberation from the bondage of materiality, the enlightenment of the intellect, union with the active intellect and the ultimate truth. Salvation is not simply escaping punishment. It is the fulfillment of the soul's highest potential. The soul that achieves salvation fears neither death nor the loss of the world, is anchored in the eternal, finds joy in knowledge and being. It is like a butterfly emerging from the dark cocoon. The soul rises to the realm of light, truth, and eternal life. Ibn Sina and his everlasting legacy. Kitab al-Najat was not written merely for a particular age. It addresses every soul that asks, what is the meaning of life? How do we reach the truth? What is our ultimate destiny? Through rigorous logic, profound metaphysics, insightful psychology, and noble ethics, Ibn Sina lays down the path of salvation, the path of self-perfection. In a world shaken by doubt and distraction, Ibn Sina teaches us to think clearly, seek truth relentlessly, purify the soul, fix our gaze upon the necessary being. Though 1,000 years have passed, the light of Kitab al-Najat still shines. It calls out to every seeker of freedom and truth. At the end of this journey, Ibn Sina whispers to us, salvation belongs to those who dare to think, dare to seek, and dare to discover themselves. Now, the journey is yours to take.
Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.